Hello, and welcome to the No Wrong Notes podcast, a show hosted by me, Veronica Kokis, holistic voice teacher and singer just like you. Grab a cup of tea, relax, and sit back as we discuss all things singing technique, mindset tips, and more so you can show up as the most confident and creative singer you can be. Hey y'all, and welcome to another episode of No Wrong Notes. In this week's episode, I'm going to be talking about how you can create your own pre-performance game plan that helps you feel more centered going into a performance or audition. And this week's episode, I created a little outline for. Normally, I actually create a full-blown script for you guys on these episodes, but I was feeling inspired recently by another student of mine who was preparing for a open mic night. And I was feeling so inspired by that I was like, you know what? I just kind of want to hop on the mic and talk about a few things that might be useful if you yourself are preparing for a performance or audition. With this student, we sat down and chatted about things that they would need to do leading up to their performance. We also talked about things that they could do the day of, things to do right before they stepped on stage. And we also sat down and chatted about mindset techniques, things that they could think about and shift their mind towards as they got ready to sing. So in this episode, we're going to be covering all of those things that I covered with my student. Now, just as a disclaimer, if you're someone struggling with severe anxiety, I cannot recommend enough having the assistance of a mental health professional. I add this because I think that when it comes to preparing for a performance or audition, yes, there's going to be some nerves that come up. There's going to be some anxiety that comes up. And as a teacher, I like to support my students when they are experiencing some of that performance anxiety. But as I tell all of my students, I am not a mental health professional. I cannot give you mental health advice or therapy or anything like that. I can only do so much as a voice teacher to provide you with ideas for ways to deal with anxiety when preparing for a performance or audition. With that being said, the first thing that you'll want to think about when you know you have an audition or performance coming up is prepping your music and your instrument, which is your voice, okay? I know this seems like such a simple thing, but part of what makes us feel more confident stepping into a performance setting or stepping into an audition room is knowing that we've done the work ahead of time to prepare our music and our voice. So really having a crucial understanding of our music, notes, rhythms, text, understanding what you're singing about, navigating any sort of technical issues, those things that you do, that you practice to really ingrain that muscle memory of the music. So that way you can feel prepared and more confident stepping into that audition or performance setting. Figure out what needs to be worked on in terms of learning music and any concerns that you have in regards to your singing technique. Going back to the example that I was sharing earlier of my student who was preparing for this open mic night, one of the songs that she was singing, actually both of the songs that she was singing were both original songs that she had written. And one of the songs, she, before her performance, wanted some additional help with figuring out spots to breathe in the middle of a tricky chorus. So we walked through it together, understanding we can breathe in this place. If you get especially nervous, you can breathe in this spot. So we sat down and talked through those things together. So, like I said, first thing that needs to happen is you really want to make sure that you have a thorough understanding of your music, understanding the things that need to happen technically and physically, and understanding what it is that you are singing about. We practice to build muscle memory, which then helps us when we get into stressful situations. Now, let's get into some more exciting stuff that you can think about for the day of your performance or audition. Now, the day of your performance, your audition, I really recommend doing something physical to get out of your head. So I think that, especially for those of us that maybe are on the anxious side, We can get really wrapped up in our minds, especially as we get closer to a performance. We can end up spiraling through all of our anxious thoughts. And one of my favorite ways to get out of my head is through doing something physical. So as I said, maybe exercising, and that could be going for a walk. It doesn't have to be anything intense. It could be going for a walk, a run, maybe doing some yoga or Pilates, something that really has you focusing on your body in the present moment, really getting grounded in the body. This could also look like doing some breath work. And honestly, one of my favorite breath work resources is the YouTube channel Breathe with Sandy. I honestly love his breathwork exercises. If breathwork is something that is new to you, I highly recommend checking out his YouTube channel because he's got breathwork for everything, for stress, for anxiety. So, like I said, day of your performance or audition, doing something physical like exercise or breathwork. I also recommend the day of your performance doing a little bit of internal work, either through journaling, meeting with your therapist, maybe even deciding on some affirmations for yourself. And the thing with affirmations is that they don't have to be just, it doesn't have to just be spiritual bypassing. It doesn't just have to be positive vibes all the time. I always recommend that with affirmations, that you choose something that resonates as true for you. So, for example, if I'm getting ready to walk into an audition, maybe that affirmation that I choose for myself for that day is, I accept my voice, I accept myself as I've prepared for this moment, and I know what I'm doing. So something simple as that. It doesn't have to be, I am the greatest singer on earth or anything like that. I think that affirmations should feel real and true to you. So those are just some examples of maybe doing some internal work before your performance. Now, let's talk about the moment before you get on stage or go in the audition room. Things that you can do, ideas for when you're starting to feel really anxious or nervous. And I'll be honest and say some of these things that I'm about to suggest you might have heard before, but maybe I can get you thinking about them in a different way. So the first thing that I'll suggest is breathing exercises or movement. So personally for me, the thing that calms me down the most before I'm about to sing in front of other people is breathing exercises. So breathing in for 4 counts, exhaling for 6, breathing in for 4 counts, exhaling for 8, and literally just counting to myself with these breaths. So breathing exercises is one thing. I know that some people really enjoy physical movement before they go to perform, maybe jogging in place, maybe doing some jumping jacks, just to kind of channel some of that nervous, anxious energy into something physical. So you're kind of getting it out of your mind a little bit. Another thing that I recommend to my own students is to really get zoned into the meaning of your song. Be so absorbed in the meaning of your song that you don't have time or space to think about anything else. Like, I really like to create a story for the songs that I'm singing about. So, for example, last fall I collaborated with a friend and we performed Birdie's cover of The District Sleeps Alone Tonight, which is a song originally performed by the Postal Service. And the story that I created for myself for that song was, I imagined myself maybe on like the DC Metro or like a bus. I imagined myself sitting on that bus or that train with headphones on, listening to this song, watching the city go by. And that was my story. And like a lot of that text is very, or it can be, I should say, it can be very internal. It's not necessarily a song where you have to envision singing to someone else. Or, it could be something that you sing to someone else, but the way that I chose to interpret it was more of an internal thing, something for myself. And so before I got up to sing this song, I really put myself on that bus, on that train, imagining that I was in that seat and feeling very heartbroken, feeling very much like I was sucked into the meaning of the song. And that was my only goal in getting up to sing, was to convey some of those emotions of being heartbroken, being really sad. And so, like I said, get zoned into the meaning of your song. Really put yourself and get creative, putting yourself in the song that you're about to sing. I think that when we're fully tuned in to the meaning of the song and we're putting our mind in that place and we're physicalizing that, showing that to our audience, I think that can be even more effective. The last thing I'll say before you step on stage, ask the question, what do you need to believe to achieve some semblance of calm? What is something that you need to know before you step on stage, before you step in that audition room, that will help you maybe find some sense of calm? For me, the thing that I always come back to before I perform or sing in front of other people is that none of this matters. That sounds so silly and maybe a little nihilistic, but truly, I mean, I look at the big picture. I'm like, am I going to remember this in 50 years? Like in 50 years, 60 years, or 70, however long I live, when I look back on my life, will this matter? Okay. And honestly, yes, singing and music matters to me a great deal. It's obviously what I've dedicated my work to. And at the same time, I have an entire life outside of music too. There's people I love. There are my friends, family, my fiance. I have all these hobbies. I have this connection to nature. There are so many things in my life outside of music. And that maybe goes to the idea that I would recommend, of course, having interests in a life outside of your music, just because that gives you other things to lean on when music gets tough, when auditioning gets tough, when putting your music out there and putting yourself out there gets difficult. I think that having a support system or having a life outside of your music is really important to have. And so it's having that community around me. It's having that belief that, I'm just here to sing and have fun, and maybe this won't matter 50 years from now. Having that knowledge helps me kind of step on stage and sing and move some of that nervousness and anxiety to the side. The last tangible thing that I'll share with you is to maybe do some evaluation post-performance. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about pre-performance plan, day of performance plan, really just preparing for what it is that we're going to sing for. But post-performance evaluation is also important, because when we evaluate the things that went well and the things that we would maybe change for next time, that helps us kind of formulate a plan for what it is that we've got coming next. For example, let's say that you had a musical theater audition, okay? And let's say that what went well were that you felt really confident in your cuts, notes, rhythms, lyrics, and how you conveyed the meaning of the cut. So connecting with your character, all of that really went well. And maybe there's one thing you would change. Maybe that you felt your belting wasn't as strong as you'd like it to be. Well, that might be something to consider when prepping for your next audition. Understanding that, okay, maybe I want my belting to be a little bit stronger for next time. How can I work on that in the meantime? So, post-performance, understanding what went well. What would I change for next time? And then, of course, giving yourself some props, okay? So really affirming yourself like, hey, I did a good job. I got up there and I sang, and, even if it wasn't perfect, I did a really solid job. Or even if you completely fall on your face, like maybe you forget the lyrics to your song entirely, but you keep going maybe. Understanding that even in those moments where things kind of crash and burn, hey, you got up there to sing and you did your best, and that's all we can do in any given moment. Even if we crash and burn, understanding that is our best in the given moment. All right, that is it, folks, for this week's episode of No Wrong Notes. I hope you enjoyed some of these tips, some of these things that hopefully you can take into your next performance. If you liked this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a 5-star rating and review. That would be awesome. And if you're not following me on social media yet, The links for those are in the caption. And until next time, happy singing, y'all.